I'm not sure.
All right. Welcome to our city council meeting. Okay, welcome to our city council meeting for tonight, May 8th, 2019. I have not seen Reverend Montgomery. We'll have an invocation if there's anyone here from St. Jude's Episcopal Church. And if not, then we will have Councilman Adams provide an invocation, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Phillips.
Our Father in heaven, we're indeed grateful this evening to meet here as a city council and citizens and staff. We're grateful for the blessings that we are able to enjoy of living here in this community. We're grateful for those who provide safety in our police force and our fire department and our first responders who take care of those things that are necessary to keep us safe and to live peacefully here in this community in our best interest. We're grateful for all our city staff for the work that they do to keep the city running and take care of all those important things that we need to have to be a successful city. We're grateful for the moisture that we've received and pray that we may continue to get that we need to help with our water situation and filling up our aquifer. We're grateful once again for the blessings we do receive and ask for thy spirit to guide us this evening as we talk about things that we can do it in a civil manner and be able to make those decisions based on the facts we have and for the betterment of all in the community. And these things we pray for and do in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Oh boy.
All right, we will now move on to our agenda order approval. Are there any items that you would like changed from the published agenda? And if not, can I get a motion to approve?
I have one question on the bills. I noticed that there was a payment for SID research. Does that mean that we finally got to the bottom of all the owners on the property on those SIDs, or?
Doesn't mean we got to the bottom. It means we're getting there.
Okay.
So we've hired a title company to go out and do the necessary work.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda order.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll go to council business.
Mayor, I'm wondering if it would be possible, and I don't know what the plans are, but with the proposed increased flights with SkyWest coming at the end of the month, I was out by the airport today, and we really need to do some work on that medium entranceway. We need to have those weeds sprayed out there, and there's a lot of suckers at the bottoms of the trees. I'd really like to see if we could at least have someone take a look at that, and I don't know if that's Wade or you can or who, but we're going to have a lot more traffic, and I want our airport to be the best looking it can be.
Ken Nelson, Leisure Services. So Aviation Way from 56 all the way down through the airport to Airport Road was sprayed Monday.
Okay.
So give it a couple days and we'll see what kills off.
What about all of there's lots of little suckers at the bottom of the trees, lots of them sprouting up.
The guys will go through and get those clipped and
Get
those cleaned up. But the weeds were sprayed on Monday, so it'll take a couple days.
See,
I noticed the same thing just this morning. So even though they're dead, but that tall, do we rake them or?
Yeah, they'll clean them up once they're dead.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Same thing this morning.
See, look how efficient.
See, they anticipated every need.
Can you reach out?
All right, are there other?
I have
Yes.
two things. I had a complaint about the soccer fields that there's not enough parking, that people are having to park clear up on Main Street. And I sent Paul a text this morning. Did you?
So me and Ken went and looked at that. There's probably some room on the kind of southeast westish side to rough in some temporary parking, but a couple things to remember. Once we start putting temporary parking in with just gravel only, we
Then
need
you
to,
have weeds come up through it.
well, we'll have weed problems and other things like
Is
that. But
this over here?
if we're going to do the temporary gravel, we might want to look to asphalting it sooner rather than later.
So are you
Then-
talking the main parking lot across the street from the soccer field's the one to the east? Is that piece of land right there? Is that what you're talking?
Southeast east? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Yeah. Right. So we won't go over the drainage ditch, but
So we
we'll
just cut the curb and make a
Either-
driveway into that.
cut the curb or put some new drive approaches in. We could do a little bit of that, but it's not, soccer ends Saturday.
Oh, okay.
So we're not going to get it in time for soccer. Summer games will come in, probably have some congestion there. With as busy as Jeff's crews are right now, this is probably not going to happen until the fall, but we can,
That's great.
it's something we can accommodate.
Great. I think that'd be awesome. The other thing I had was, I just want to echo what I said last week, agenda item number 9. I've worked for this development company for over 25 years. And there's a good possibility that we would be in the next, this is a 20 to 40 year project, that our family business would probably be bidding on some of those construction projects going forward. I just wanted to disclose that.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any other comments from council? No? Okay. This is exciting. Today was the last of the elementary DARE graduations,
Oh,
the little 5th graders. They were so excited. One of them wanted to cry because she graduated DARE and was so excited about that accomplishment.
no, that's great.
So
Yeah.
they're doing a great job teaching the young kids here.
Is that 5th graders all through the city?
Yes. So today was Iron Springs
For
Elementary.
you people on television, that was a nod yes
That
from
was a
Chief Adams.
yes. So we go out and they present their certificates to them.
Oh, that's great.
And
It's a great program.
yes, so they've done a remarkable job. And it's 10 weeks, just so you kind of are aware.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a
Big
commitment.
commitment, but the kids are getting a bunch out of the program. And with that, we'll move on to staff comments. Are there any? No? Okay, then we'll move to our public agenda with our public comment with the Cedar City Disability Action and Awareness Team presentation. Wonderful. Welcome back.
How are you doing?
Great. Will you state your name too just before so we have it
Of
for the
course.
recording?
Of course.
Thank you.
Bring the microphone down just a tad, would you?
There are
Thank you.
problems being a short person.
That's
There are perks too.
Yeah.
My name is Minnie Pittman. I'm with Cedar Disability Awareness Action Team. And most of the city council members are aware of our history, so I'm not going to go into the history of the CDAT except to tell you one thing that I was just thinking about recently. CDAT is almost 19 years old. It was started in 2000 with Mayor Harold Shirley. And Charles Brinkerhoff was the instigator, was the first person to say, we need some work done to help disability accessibility in the city. Mayor Shirley said, excuse me, everything obeys ADA, meets the guidelines. And Charles said, come with me in a wheelchair. I could show you a few things. Since then, CDAT has worked very closely with the city on numerous projects. Ron Adams is our liaison this term, and we're enjoying his company. And one of our members works with what was the name of the group, Mary? No, the city building, yeah. Mary works with the building permit. She doesn't work with them. She visits their meetings and checks all the new construction that it's handicap access and all that sort of thing. So we work with the city pretty constantly. So I would like to tell you what we're looking forward to this coming year. And I would like to recognize and honor some of our members who have been instrumental in what we've done. Like I mentioned, Charles Brinkerhoff was our first organizer. And he set up a good committee. And then he and his wife went on a mission. When they came back, he was reelected our chairman. And Charles is working very hard at keeping our committee going. This year, we're looking forward to 3 separate events I'm going to tell you about. I would like everybody to be aware of them coming up and participate if you can. CDAT usually participates in July Jamboree. It's an annual event. This year it's July 13th. It's always the second Saturday in July. Everybody knows that, right? And we have a booth where we talk about what we do and answer questions and request suggestions. We have a suggestion box handy. Our participation in the July Jamboree, I don't know when it started. It's always been there since I've become a member of CDAT. But it is made possible, organized by Jana Levitt, who was one of the original members of CDAT. Jana, stand. I want everybody to know who you are. She has been an inspiration to us all for so many ways. Also, one of the features of our booth is a puppet show, which illustrates how to handle disabilities. And that's been put on for years by an Amy Bates, who does a really good job, and she's trained her kids to do the puppet show too. So and we also have a fish pond, for the kids to play. While the kids are playing, the parents are talking about CDAT, what we do and how we do it, and if they have any concerns or questions, we usually are able to name resources for them, answer their questions. If we don't know the answers, we'll find out. That's one of the things we do. We learn a lot and find out a lot. Anyway, if you have the opportunity to visit our booth on July Jamboree, I'd like to welcome you all to there. Also happening this year, the Shakespeare Festival is doing a different play this year, and the underlying goal of this play is suicide prevention, which is a concern for our group. And I would like to encourage everybody to participate, to go see the play if you can. It's a different play than anything I've ever seen in the past, and I would recommend you check it in. It's called, was it A Million Brilliant Things? A Million Brilliant Things. So watch for that play, and if you get a chance, go to see it. This fall, we will participate again in SUU's Disability Week. This is something that we do every year. The college puts on a series of lectures and talks about a specific disability. At this point in time, I don't know what disability they're going to be featuring this year, and it's always usually the second week in November. I don't have a date for that yet, but it's between Halloween and Thanksgiving, right in there. If you get a chance, check it out. In addition to all the talks and everything, there's an obstacle course where you learn how to run a wheelchair and all other fun things. But it's something that we have participated in every week, every year, and it's something that I quite enjoy. And like I say, I learned a lot. I've been learning a lot since. Well, yeah. Anyway, I would encourage everybody to participate. If you have any questions or concerns or suggestions, please share them with us. Oh, I forgot. Disability Week at the SUU, that whole organization, the whole project is headed by Carmen Aldridge, who is the coordinator of disability services at the college. She's a good person to know. So if you have any questions?
She's on our committee.
She's on our, yeah, she's on our committee too. Actually, she was one of the original members of the committee. And she's teaching a class tonight. And some of the helpers at July Jamboree with our fish pond and other delights is a group from Oasis House. We have a number of volunteers from different groups in the city that we work and they work with, and they work with us.
Any questions from the council?
Are there any questions?
I don't have a question. I only would like to make a comment, and I would like to publicly thank Charles and Darlene
Yes.
for all she's done too to help support this. It's a very, very important part of our community, and I want to thank you for your leadership and support over the years.
Yes, absolutely.
No, it's a great thing, and keep up your great work.
I'd just like to add for the community members, these committees, I sat on two different ones that you may not even know exist. This being one, and one, the Iron County Homeless Coordinating Committee. And what I've learned in my several years with both of these groups is the amount of resources that are available in our community for those in need, of various disabilities and other needs. I'm just overwhelmed with the amount of support that we have right here in our community of Cedar City
True.
for these items. And these committees are an excellent resource if you have somebody that you know of that is in need of some services and don't know where to go with it. These groups can help you find them because they're here in our community. And I think it's wonderful.
Thank
It's a
you.
wonderful group.
Thank you, Ron. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Minnie.
Thank you.
So much. Okay, now we will have move to the rest of our public comments. If there's anyone here that would like to speak to the council about an item not on the chill for just yeah, I know, but let me finish my spiel. That's not on the agenda. Now is your opportunity. Just make sure you come up and state your name. And when we get to the different items, we'll handle those one at a time. Now you can come up.
Thank you, Tom Jett. I just like to, sometimes we only see the negatives and we don't see the positives. Well, I've always seen the negatives in the past quite a bit on our interchanges and the landscaped areas. This time I saw the positive. They're spotless, clean, neat, weed-free, and there's been a lot of effort, a lot of hurt backs bending over and cleaning those this year. And just wanted to make note, and other people have made note to me that they've noticed it also. So I just wanted to thank the people at the Parks Department for keeping that clean. So
Thank you, Tom.
Hi, I'm Linda Herzberger, and on April 3rd, I came to the council meeting and I talked about the traffic and how fast it's been going up Talon and onto South Mountain. And I debated because there is a lot of people are here because of that complex that's going on behind us, but that's not what this is really about. This is about the traffic. And I really want to say I'm thankful to the police chief. He and Kid apparently came to our neighborhood and they found that the stop signs that are there are backwards. But I have something additional to add to that. And we've been meeting with Councilman Phillips and it's been great. Everybody's been really working, and this is something that's really important, because there's lives at stake here. But what I'm concerned about, because we've had rock trucks going through our neighborhood and they were going fast, and my husband called the company and they got them to slow down, but then they started speeding up again. But my concern is the way the stop signs are, they can roll that stop from South Mountain onto Talon, and then they're going to hit my neighbors over here that came today. And I like them. I'd like to keep them around. The other thing is that the neighbor that was across the street last night, she told me, and so I didn't get to tell you this, that she was, every time she'd pull out of her driveway and before they put the stop sign up there, that she was almost hit a lot because people would just come up there so fast. So they put the stop sign up there and she says she hasn't had the incident since. So my concern is, at what point I know we haven't done a count for the traffic count, and the traffic count, it's down because of all the construction going on behind our complex. But at what point does it become a safety issue that we can put up 4 stops right there at Talon and South Mountain?
Well, there's this national manual that we have to go by when we do signage, and you need a certain traffic count going through that intersection before it meets the warrant to put up a 4-way stop. Police chief and I were out there last week, and we're going to do some modifications as far as signage on that intersection to see if we can help the situation.
Okay.
Yes, I was out there today as well, and I believe that South Mountain coming onto Talon definitely needs a stop sign on that side. I'm not sure how warranted it is up on I don't know if it's Eagle Ridge Loop. I forget which one it is.
Yeah.
There is one there now, and I just thought it kind of goes almost to a cul-de-sac or a circle
Right.
there, but definitely coming off of South Mountain. And I would, I've got a few notes here because I'd like to really see us look at that, and I'd like to see us look at a traffic study, because then we'll really know what the numbers are, Kit, and we can decide that it's nowhere near it, or it's within 10% of it, or whatever.
Okay.
And then we can revisit it.
When we do the count, can we consider the houses that are being built that are going to add to the traffic?
Well, the count will come on how many cars use it and how many cars go
Just
through
that?
it.
Okay. All
So if you want to drive up and down that street all day long, it might.
Just let us know when you're going to do it.
The other thing that I would like to, and maybe I mentioned it to you, but I'd like to encourage you and the others in the neighborhood, is to visit with the school district about the bus stop,
Right.
because they're the ones that set where the bus locations go. And if there's concerns about that, maybe you can work with them to see if we can find some modifications. Because if they are truly going up and turning back around to go back into town, then why can't they drop off on the other side of the road?
Right.
So the children aren't crossing through the road. So those are some things I'd like to at least recommend that we look at.
Yes.
I know that we have taken your comments and everything to heart with them going out and looking, and
I really do appreciate that. It was awesome to see a response that well. So thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
I just have a question because it doesn't.
Can you state your name though?
Oh,
too?
sorry. My name's Brianne Buckner.
Thank you.
We all received notification from this engineering company that you guys are going to be discussing the purchase of the Bowerland across the street on Westview Drive, but it doesn't show that it's on the agenda
So,
tonight. But it said it was going to be tonight.
so that was handled last night at Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is a recommending body. They give it a positive recommendation. So the next step is to come to City Council.
Okay.
Before we can take it to City Council, I'm required to provide notice on the state public notice website, in the
Okay.
paper, on our Facebook
So that was supposed
page.
to happen last night.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll come before the City Council, most likely the first 2 meetings in June.
Okay.
But I'd just look at the agendas and you'll see it on there.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other general public comments? No. Okay, perfect. Then we will move on to our public agenda with the consent agenda first. Item number 1, approval of minutes dated April 17th and May 1st, 2019. Approval of bills dated May 3rd, 2019. Approve the final plat for the South Mountain Estates Phase 1.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to our action agenda. Item number 4, consider waiving or reducing a water bill for the Southwest Wildlife Foundation.
So just really quick, I've looked into this, and if the council is inclined to waive some of that fee, that money's public money has to come from an account to pay for that. So procedurally, what we need to do is we need to post notice and have a public hearing. So anyone who'd like to come and weigh in can have that opportunity. So.
So if you guys are, if the council is inclined to move down that road, could you let us know and we'll post a public hearing?
So can we just make a motion that we have a public hearing? for
Yeah,
that?
we're
I'll
inclined to
make
move
that
down that
motion.
road. I'll second that motion.
Okay, then we will post that on the agenda with the appropriate time notification.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense? Do you have any idea what we just did with that?
Mhm.
Did we vote on that?
Sounds like they want to
Oh.
help, but they have to do a public meeting.
Correct.
Yes.
Can't-
So it's
can't-
going to have to be on another agenda after we do the proper amount of notice and everything else.
But have the leak is fixed and everything's fixed, that won't keep accumulating. Is that correct?
Will you come up to the microphone though and state your name?
Susan Tyner, Southwest Wildlife Foundation. Yeah, I passed out the bill that we got for April, but the meter was read between March 4th and the first week of April. So it's basically, we didn't know we had a leak until March 11th. That's when the water was shut off. So that's the last bill with the problem. My husband and I went up Sunday to look at the meter to see if we could figure out how to read it and write down the number. And then I checked with the city this morning because they go out the first of the month to read the meters. And we only used 1,000 gallons this last month. That won't show up until the next month's bill. So yes, the leak is fixed. We usually use between 1,000 and 2,000 gallons a month is all. So
I did have one question on the bill that we have in front of us. It shows a penalty has been assessed. What kind of penalty is on there? Is that included in this
Well,
overage bill or?
basically when we got our bill in March and it was like $260, that was my first red flag that something was wrong. We paid that whole bill. We had the water shut off. We addressed the issue. We paid that bill. And we thought we had it fixed, but I didn't realize about the delay, the timing to get the city bills processed and out. So yeah, the overage is from the previous month that we haven't paid yet.
Okay, and so that's what the penalty is for. I didn't know because I know
Oh. I didn't, I guess I overlooked that part of it. So yeah, that would be, I assume, a penalty because we didn't pay the last month's bill.
Is that what that is? And then I was curious because I was told that there's a penalty for you guys turning the water back on. Was that assessed
I
on the
don't
bill?
know, and I
That there
didn't
was
know
a
that.
$300
It's a
penalty or
$100
something?
It's $100.
100?
Okay, and we were unaware of that, but yes, somebody that did the repair turned it on for us, so it wasn't the city, so we did definitely,
Okay, I didn't know if that's what that
I don't know
penalty
what the
was, or if
penalty
that
is
needs to
for.
be included in the public hearing if we want to consider waiving that.
Was that interesting. Was that a subcontractor that turned it back on that fixed it?
Actually, we had a volunteer fix it.
Just because that's against our policies.
Right.
So, and yeah, if we broke the policy, then we should be responsible for that. But it's whatever you guys think is best.
Okay, so yes, so this will all come once we can post the proper.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I appreciate learning as we go that, that's why I asked my husband, can we go look at the meter? I'm not sleeping. All of a sudden they raised the thought, did it really get fixed? And it was like, yes, thank goodness it did. But so we pulled off the top and looked at it to read it and compare it to this last bill. But yeah, as far as, I guess, turning water off or on, it has to be done by the city. So we know that now. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Could I, before you leave, could I get just an email so I can let you know when that will be on the agenda?
Oh, yes. It's Susan@gowildlife.org. Pretty simple.
Thank you.
I appreciate you letting me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We had a motion. We had a second for that.
Yes, I
I got
second.
a second,
Is everyone?
but we did not
But we
vote.
did not
Yeah, I was
vote.
gonna say, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. It's like I know we got halfway through that and then. Okay, item number 5, consider an ordinance amending the general land use plan from industrial and manufacturing to medium density residential for property located at 2300 North, 600 West. Do you have anything new to add with that, Tyler?
No, so this was Mr. Burgess's property that's located underneath that underpass by Canyon View High School, just on the other side there. I don't know if you have any specific questions on that.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call. We'll start with Councilman Hartley.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Consider an ordinance changing the zone from general commercial to dwelling 2-unit R-2-2 for property located 2300 North, 600 West.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we'll start with Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
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 Okay. Consider an ordinance amending the general land use plan for medium density residential to high density residential for property located at 1022 South, 860 West.
Ron Larson with Insight Engineering. Don't know if you have any questions or any other things you need.
My only question, Ron, that I want to know about, and I don't know if you even know this yet, but what is the intended use if it were to be changed? What I have concern about is I'm not crazy about having a 3-story apartment building back there. Twin homes, townhomes, something is different to me.
I don't think that the owner has any plan or any. The owner himself is not really like planning to build something. I think he's going to sell it, but they don't have any plans for it.
So we really don't know once the zones change what they might plan to do with it.
No,
Is that
but
correct?
I know that one of the questions we talked about, if you could do lots on it. The problem with this property is that this line right here is the only frontage on the lot. So you have to have it for like smaller lots, even 8,000 square feet or whatever, you have to have 70 feet of frontage and that. So you could basically divide this into like maybe 3 lots, but you'd have this one lot right here would be huge because it has no frontage. That's the hard part about it. And it's not wide enough to put a city street in it to split it because of the 45-foot and 100-foot turnaround and a 45-foot roads and 20-foot setbacks. So it's just a really difficult piece to do a normal subdivision in. If you do like what's been done on these others, you can put a driveway down the middle and put buildings on both sides because they can be closer together, but that's about all it's got.
Would that be more in the form of a PUD or something, or what?
It could be a PUD or apartments or, it's wide enough that you could put a building here and a building there and then bring the drive and parking down the middle. Which is probably about the only way you could really do anything with it. But
The rest of that property in the area is all R3,
yeah,
correct?
all the way, even to the south or the north here, all of whatever you call it. Three Fountains, thank you. Three Fountains is R3. Then going this direction, you have highway service on the front and R3 development along the middle, and then the R1 at the bottom, below it. So.
Do you know any history on this at all, Ron, why it was originally R1? Because it always butted up against highway service.
Well, it actually, I think what it was way back when, and I haven't researched this, but used to be when you brought something into the city, it annexed it, it came in as R1. Now we do annex transition and other things. So I'm assuming that it kind of, because it's never had anything built on it. It's never been developed. The Luntz owned it. I just assumed that it came in that way and it's just been sitting there. When they did the highway service along the front, they changed that, but they never changed the back to anything.
I actually went over and walked the property with Rick, and that property only backs behind not even a full residential property to there, so it doesn't go all along behind all of those homes. There's really about 3/4.
If you look right here where that comes, this is the one that adjoins the R1, and it's basically one lot that comes down a little farther right here. So there's one home right there. Then this is the new apartments that are going in and the hotel and stuff. So yeah, it's just that one.
So it's really not looking down in the majority of that neighborhood. So that made me feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah, and then you got development on the corner behind it the other way where the Chartway Credit Union's going in on the corner. So got more commercial going in there.
Well, I would make a motion that we approve the change.
Yes.
We already had the public hearing last
we had
week.
it-
That's up to the mayor. But we had a hearing last week in council.
Did we get any notice of that? Are we required to get notice of that?
So at the planning commission meeting, I explained that they were a recommending body and that it could still come forward to the city council, even on a negative recommendation. So that's why we're here today. Last week was the work meeting where public comment is held.
There's a lot of, I wasn't aware of
That last,
Notice was posted on the state public notice website. It was posted on
You
the
okay for this?
city's
public
website,
comments?
on the city's
Take a little
Facebook
time.
page, and
Okay.
in the newspaper.
We will
No,
do,
I don't.
because it seems like there are a lot of you that were unaware. I'll do kind of what I've done before. We'll do like 15, maybe 20 minutes of public comments on this. So if you would like to speak to it, you can have your opportunity. Just be mindful that I have set a time limit because so try not to repeat each other or it just takes away from your other neighbors and friends and everybody else. And make sure you state your name or I'll have to cut you off. So you can't state your name. But I will allow some public comments where it seems like a number of you were unaware and weren't here
Sorry.
last week.
Lynn Turek. I'm a resident on Cedar Knoll South. I have two issues. I'll try to make this succinct. I think we're asking for a major safety issue with the high school. I think we've increased a huge amount of traffic along those roads, along 860 west that goes on through. We've got 600 south, 1100, which is Cedar Knolls. We've already increased a great deal with the traffic that goes by there. It's almost impossible to get on Main Street as it is right now. This subdivision that would be, or this apartment building that would be put right here empties directly onto 860, which goes right to the side of the high school. We have huge amounts of traffic and foot traffic on those roads. If these in this apartment are heading towards the university, they go right by that high school. I just don't want to wait until we get a kid run over that's walking over to the seminary building before we do something. The traffic has definitely increased. As most of you are probably aware, 600 south and 1100 that meets at that intersection that comes off of the hill. You've got buses, you've got a lot of traffic. Everything has to go through that intersection, and this is going to add a great deal to that. So I see a huge traffic issue. Getting onto Main Street out of this is everybody goes again down because the only traffic light is that same 860 or the 800 south that goes out to Main Street that's right by the high school, between the high school and the alternative. I just think we're increasing huge numbers of traffic in there and there's no way to funnel it. There's no straight through road down to the university. Second of all, the flooding is still an issue, and I know Mr. Wareham has been taking a look at that, just aware that the Clarion Hotel, the Quail Court subdivision, the Tag and Go, the area on Main Street that has not been developed, that's now just the vacant lot, and this area right here all drains out onto 860 on the south side of Three Fountains. That drains right onto the street. There is no storm drain there. So all of the drainage that goes out onto there empties right out onto the street. If there's an overflow of any kind at all, it jumps across the street with huge amounts of debris that dumps right down into Three Fountains with no place for it to go other than into the homes.
Doesn't the Main Street drainage go into the storm drain up higher than that or not? Because I understood that
Main Street drainage goes into storm drain that goes along 800 South, along the south side of the high school. We just put 5 years or so ago, we put a large storm drain in there, and then that turns the corner and goes on down 860 west to 600 south. So once it gets to that intersection of 800 and 860,
Okay, so it is on the street until
plenty
then?
of capacity there for
Okay.
storm drain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jill Malik, and I'm actually the house that's right up against this property. And I just want to add to that I have seen an increased amount of debris down that street just from the building that we have seen so far. And because of the traffic, I can predict that we'll eventually need a stoplight or something on Main Street at that intersection because of how much the traffic has increased.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Granger, and I live at 996 South, 860 West. This is 1022 South, so there's only one door between me and then the street. I'm just concerned because we don't know what it is that's planned. And I don't, even though Three Fountains is zoned R3, where I live, we are more like duplexes. There's one that's a total standalone, and then mine abuts, and then the next one abuts. So it's really more like housing right there, houses. I have the high school traffic twice a day. It's crazy. A police officer, could sit there all day long and ticket the high school kids just up and down that street as fast as they can go. And it concerns me already, but the traffic, the drainage, and then also, this is just a kind of an add-on since I get time to talk for a second, we need some street lighting on that corner. When you come off of Main Street and around that corner, there is no street light there. And there are deer still that migrate from this exact lot. They've been pushed down with that new subdivision coming in, kind of that housing coming in south of it into that little lot. And I've come around that corner and just about hit deer during certain times of the year, several times. The street light that is right across the street from me flickers off and on. It does not stay on constantly. And the one to the north of that flickers, does not stay on constantly. And that is so dark coming around that corner. Somebody's going to get hit. If somebody's walking there or biking there, it's super dark. Nobody can even really see coming off of Main Street, especially at night, unless you know exactly where the street sign is and where those trees are, and it's a light, the moon's bright enough. You really have a hard time even seeing how to get off of Main Street onto that street. But we just can't have a big apartment building there with the extra parking, the extra cars, the extra traffic. It's just not appropriate for what's around it. Thank you.
Sure. Why would I even doubt that?
Hello, my name is Sombrin Williams, and I just want to say I appreciate so much the opportunity to have me and my neighbors come up here and speak to you. I live in Three Fountains, directly behind where the proposed zoning changes, and I just want to speak out for the many retired and disabled residents of Three Fountains who live on a fixed income. And I know that we've talked about drainage issues. I just want to say that the Three Fountains drainage system is old and it's kind of maintained by Three Fountains itself. And I get nervous about that just because so many of our residents there and my neighbors who are older are on a fixed income. They're in their 80s and 90s, some of them. And I just think, oh man, what if because we're directly downhill from that. And I'm just thinking, oh, I don't love being in the path of the drainage that is going to come from all that concrete and all the water coming off of that. I also too just want to say that as a resident, I avoid that area on Main Street and that turn where there isn't a light on Main Street, basically in between the hours of 8 in the morning until 8 at night, because it's scary. And what's exciting for our city is we've had so much development there and it's really neat. to see that. And I've lived there for over 10 years, and it's been great to see all the development. But I think, oh, we're really putting a lot of strain right there. And I don't like to turn there as it is because I'm kind of a cautious driver, but I just think, oh, I don't love that. And high density apartments could be a lot. I think the way it's zoned right now, I think townhouses would be great there. Thank you.
I ran in just at the right time. I actually wrote a letter for my neighbor to present to you.
Okay. Will you state your name?
Oh, my name is Harmony Rosenberg. Sorry, and I live at the top of Fountain Drive, which is pretty much down at the very end of this street. So I look straight up this street, and so that's where I live. But I was able to make it tonight. So this same ordinance change request was presented at Planning Commission last month. My neighbors and I expressed their concerns at that meeting, after which the Planning Commission actually decided on a negative recommendation for this zone change and the general land use change. At the Planning Commission meeting, I asked the Planning Commission members if they'd been given any information regarding the plan for this property from the developers and the landowners. The representative for the landowners stated that the purpose for the zone change request was to be able to sell their property, and they have no development plans currently. To me, this seems really irresponsible on the part of all parties to request a zone change without any knowledge. It makes it seem that it's a very uneducated decision to make a decision for zone change and a general land use change when we don't have any idea what could possibly go in there. With the change to the R3M, you know that that's high density housing, but we don't know what that consists of, how many buildings, how many how many units or anything like that. So I still ask again, has anyone seen any preliminary plans for the development of this property? Like was stated earlier, we do have a concern about traffic in our small neighborhood with a multi-housing unit. There have not been, as far as I know, any traffic studies regarding the impact that a high-density development would have, like has been stated on Main Street, on 860 West, and all of Cedar Knolls neighborhood. 860 West is a high-traffic area for the high school, for Southwest Tech, those who live in our area, including Three Fountains, as Sombrin stated. I don't know how many of you have ever tried to get onto Main Street, like was already stated, and high peak traffic times. And the only traffic light is at 800 South, which is where Cal Ranch is. And even that light is not built for a lot of traffic if you've ever driven there when high school students are leaving, coming and going. And then the other concern I had also is the traffic on 600 South, which is out in front of the high school, in front of Cedar High School. That's even increased traffic with the new development, the new multi-housing that is near the Clarion Inn. We've seen an increased amount of traffic, at least I have, even across 600 South, which is a concern for me because kids are crossing the street there to get to South Elementary School. There's a lot of traffic coming to and from the high school. So I just feel that would put a major strain on our roads in our neighborhood. And I would hope that before any zone change is approved, especially not knowing the intent of the development of the property, I think it's the responsibility of the City Council and the Planning Commission to conduct traffic studies in that area before a decision is made. And remember, there are no plans currently for developing the property, and I believe it's extremely ignorant and irresponsible to think that a zone change request can be made and approved without any plans for the area and possible impact it may have on our city. And then lastly, voting in an approval of this zone changing general land use change goes against all good land entitlement procedure and process. Thank you.
Can I get a copy of what you read?
You sure can.
Just for our minutes?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. With that, doesn't look like there's anyone else.
Just say one more thing just before we're done.
Okay, you still have to state
My
your-
name's Mitch Alger and I live right next to Harmony, and she said plenty. So the only thing I wanted to say is that there was something mentioned in the planning meeting when that was that a traffic, I don't even know what you can call them, that basically states how fast you're going, had to be put up on the street on South Cedar Knolls because of the impact that was being had on the high density housing that went in on the southwest portion of this development. So our concern as a neighborhood of having another high density housing going on the other side of it would be, there would be traffic on both sides that we wouldn't probably be able to handle in the area, in the neighborhood, considering we have a high school and a feeder down to the college from that main thoroughfare. So I think that's our concern all as a neighborhood, is that we have no idea what's going to go in there. We came in last year for the development that was taking place just adjacent to this that's going in as duplexes. And that seemed to be something we could tolerate as a neighborhood, and seemed to be a nice buffer between the commercial and us as residents. So we would all be in favor of something like that in this, but right now, without a proposal of what's going to go in there, we're all nervous about high density housing. Thank you.
Hey, Mitch, also I have kind of a question for you, Mitch. Didn't you, the last planning commission meeting, did you indicate that you were having trouble with water pressure at your home? Is that?
And that's been happening for a while. I mean, that's been happening for probably the last few years. And I talked to 2 or 3 plumbers. One of my plumbers actually came in and said, "Do you have a problem with your water regulator?" And he turned it all the way open, and then we went across next door to the Tureks, and they had the same water pressure in theirs. I set my sprinkling system for a certain water pressure, and it's probably down at least 25% of when I originally put that in a few years back. A plumber had told me that eventually, when all this development was going to take place, that they would pressurize or equal the system somehow, because we're on the end of the line up there. And that really hasn't happened. Our water pressure is down in that area. And my concern about adding additional residents in that area, would that be addressed? So that was why I brought that up.
Okay, would that have any effect on this at all?
Would what have any?
If they build any kind of a additional complex here on the
Well,
water
yeah,
pressure?
you get a high user in there, it could have an effect. Our water model doesn't really show that there's significant problems. Everything's with state regulations as far as pressure. But
and when I did my sprinkling system, I know it was just under 80 pounds, and I know that when the plumber came in and measured, it was probably in the mid 50s. So I'm having an issue being able to keep my sprinkling system covering everything, and I didn't want to redo all that if I knew that something was going to be addressed on this. So
thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so back to the council.
One thing that came out of the hearing for these folks that weren't there was the UDOT is studying a light on Main Street. So it's in the study or looking at it process, which is, they've been on it for a little while. So that is a consideration. I know many of you brought that up, but they are looking at the possibility of putting another one in on Main Street there somewhere. Yeah, in that neighborhood. Yeah. So
Okay, so back to what you would like to do. We did have a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote, and this is to approve. Is it right? Yes. Okay, so we'll start.
the general land use plan.
Yeah, to approve the general land use plan. So this, we'll start with Councilman Hartley.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So that passes. So now we'll go to consider an ordinance amending the zone from residential 1 R1 to dwelling multiple unit R-3-M for property located at 1022 South 800 West.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we'll start with Councilman Adams.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move to our next item. Item number 9. Consider and this will also be an ordinance for the residential development overlay RDO for Sitla property west of Providence Center. You want to start? Well,
Would you like me to
yeah, you can start.
start? Or
As long as you state your name.
I'm Ron Larson, with Levitt Land. And I don't know if you need any more information on it. We kind of have gone over it quite a bit. So unless you have any questions,
Well, I still have a question with, and I've talked to Brenda about it, and I think, Ron, I've talked to you a little bit about it as well, and I know part of this is the city's responsibility, so Kit, Paul, whoever can weigh in on this, is I'm still uncomfortable with where we have the traffic flow out there at the bottom of the project near Pod 2 with this Eagle Ridge thing. Whether it's the previous developer's fault or whatever it is, I think it is a burden that this development is potentially laying on the Eagle Ridge subdivision unless we do something about it, we the city and either you, to address so it doesn't have to all funnel through Eagle Ridge.
well, let me address that because
Please.
this actually has come up previously.
Yeah.
The current city master plan for roads, that's what it shows.
No,
And so we're required to show that on here. We actually, and talking with Kit and utility companies and stuff, we would actually like to change it to come down over here and tie into South Mountain Drive over here. But that's not the master plan road, so that's why it shows what it shows. Obviously, it can go where the city would like it to go. I will say though that the new subdivision that just is going in right here, the road is already widened to 55 feet.
Right.
So it's the same size road as what is required all the way through here. So the master plan shows it going all the way down to the bottom by the freeway. So that's, it is wider. So,
But right now, and I don't know if you or somebody can address it, goes all the way down there, but there's nothing down there.
right. No,
So they're going to have to go down, take a pretty drive and turn around and come back and then go through South Mountain Drive again to get back.
Exactly.
So
there is master plan roads down there that it'll connect to.
correct. I don't know the timing on that, and I don't expect you to commit to it tonight, but it seems to me that this should be a priority for us because I think it's, from my point of view, it's unfair for all of that traffic to be funneled through Eagle Ridge. I wouldn't like it if it was my neighborhood. And I live by the university and I have plenty of traffic where I live.
No, that's the whole reason it's there is because that's what the master plan shows. We would love to discuss other options.
Okay.
That's not something that we feel that it should go there, but right now
It's where the master plan
that's the
road is.
master
I
plan.
understand.
So we
And
would
the
love
master
to look at
plan
other
road
options.
is outside of the Eagle Ridge subdivision.
Yeah.
Right. No, I do understand that.
Yeah. So that's something we would definitely be open to changing and adjusting, but we just need that discussion.
Gotcha.
Does that master planned road that goes along by I-15, is that even on the target yet for us to start finishing it? Or could we move it up?
Oh, most of the time, master plan roads are put in as development triggers them. And that area down there is Sitla property, and we haven't seen any plans for development of that.
I don't know that anything's happened down there. I haven't heard of anything other than the sewer that's already in.
But there will be continual things on South Mountain, which means if we can find a way to tie into South Mountain through that, you know, there may be broken spots in between there, but eventually it's going to tie into South Mountain.
And it'd be great. Good solution.
So is the thinking then, if I understand correctly, that the second road there that leads by the veteran cemetery there, is that going to be developed as a second road, or is that they're happening simultaneously?
It probably won't happen until you'd go in and build the first phase down in here, and then when assuming that things sell and you progress on to the next phase, then you'd be to that point where you'd need to put it in. It would be required to be put in. So it wasn't part of the first phase.
Sorry. Wouldn't it be shorter though to go that way down through Providence and that area?
Well, not really shorter because the sewer and the water are right here.
Yeah. Okay.
And so if you ran the sewer and water up here, you could do it up here. It would be shorter, but you know,
Gotcha.
it's right there. That's the whole reason for starting there.
Are there other questions for Ron at this time from the council?
I had invited Paul to maybe talk a little bit about an RDO and the process and a couple of items along that line. Can you maybe open up the discussion with that?
Maybe if I don't break the microphone. Yeah. So the RDO process RDO stands for Residential Development Overlay. It's a process that the city has to do larger projects like this to try to plan them out a little better and to try to give a long-term vision for what's going to go in that area. We didn't always do RDOs. We've had other development methods, but that's what we currently have. So the idea is the owner of the property would show us where his master plan roads are going to go, show us where the master plan water and sewer goes, show us what the density is going to be, kind of a broad overlay at that level. After the RDO process goes through, before the developer can actually do anything, they're going to need to come in and get the proper zoning for what they want to do, and possibly have to change the city's master plan or request a change to the city's master plan. So there's a process to go through to rezone a piece of property. What zoning does is it gives them the city's rules on what can be built there and what can't be built there. So we just went through an R3 zoning process, and that was to build a high density residential. In an R3, you couldn't build industrial things, but you can build high density residential. I think from what the Iron Horse fellows have said, they want to proceed with pod 2, I think, is where they want to start. And they would be looking for R1, which is a lower density residential that the city has in its book of zoning ordinances. After they get it rezoned, they would come back in and they would have to subdivide the land. Right now, it's just one big piece of land. It's all owned by state trust lands, and you can't sell it off to individual end users as one big piece of land unless you want to sell the whole thing. So they come in and they subdivide the land. And at that point, the developer lays out all of the internal road network, all of the internal sewer network, water network, gas, power, fiber, everything, curb, gutter, sidewalk. And we will start that process with a vicinity plan, which will show where they're going to put the lots, basically where the roads are going to go. After the vicinity plan gets approved, they'll come back in for a preliminary plan, and this goes back and forth through the engineers. Their engineers will submit to our engineers where the water lines, sewer lines, storm drain lines, streets, power, gas, everything needs to go. And our engineers will send it back and say, give them all of our comments on whether or not what they've designed meets our specifications. So Cedar City has a book of engineering specifications. It's available online for anybody that wants to read it. And it sets out how wide we want the roads, how thick we want the roads, what kind of road base we want underneath. It sets out what kind of pipes we want for water. It sets out the diameter of the pipe for water. It sets out where we need a water tank. It sets out what kind of water tanks we need. It talks about storm drains and gives specs for storm drains, sidewalks, curbs, gutter, et cetera, et cetera. So all those infrastructure items go through that preliminary planning phase, and they'll go back and forth between the engineers, usually numerous times before it gets approved. After the vicinity plan showing where the lots are going to go and where the streets are going to go are approved, and the preliminary plan's approved, it'll come back for a final vote, and the council will take a final vote to approve or not approve that subdivision. That's kind of the subdivision process. We do have a rule that says, and this comes in during the subdivision process, that once you get 80 lots on a main road, you have to provide a secondary access road. We do that because we need public safety access. We need access for folks to get in and out on a day-to-day basis. And if there's an emergency, you got to have a second way out once you get enough folks. We do that so we can get snowplows in and garbage trucks in and everything else. So once this development gets that 80 lots on this single road, they're going to have to find another way out. And that other way out's got to lead to one of our major master plan roads. Excuse me. Police and fire protection was brought up. We do not go and build firehouses before the development gets there. Firehouses are expensive things, and you have to buy fire trucks to put in firehouses, and they're very expensive as well. So what we will do is we will, as development pressure dictates, we will find land and we will expand our fire infrastructure as we need to in order to try to maintain our ISO rating. ISO is an insurance rating agency. They come every 2 years. Every 3 years. And they rate our city, and we try to maintain our current ISO ratings. What this means for me and all of you is if we start getting really poor ISO ratings, our insurance rates go up. So we don't want our insurance rates to go up. So we will try to work with the fire department and the ISO folks so we can move firehouses where we need to, but they're not items we can build it and then have development come to the firehouse. It just financially doesn't work out that way. The Central Iron County Water Conservancy District, Mr. Cousins gave a great explanation on their efforts last week, but just to recap, they've been looking out on a 50-year time horizon for water. When development comes in, one of the things that the folks with Iron Horse or any other development have to do is they have to either bring water rights into the city or pay a fee so that the city can then go out and acquire more water rights. They also have to include in their development when building permits are pulled, impact fees. We use impact fees to go develop wells and tanks and transmission infrastructure so we can move water to the home. We can move wastewater away from the home. We can move stormwater away from the home. Those are some of the major sources of revenue that we have to do those projects. The Water Conservancy District's been very heavily involved in the water recharge, and so is Cedar City. The Water Conservancy District has been working with Cedar City, Iron County, Enoch, to look at ways to fund the importation of water from the Wawa Valley. Is it Wawa and
Wawa and Pine.
And Pine Valleys?
And maybe Hamlin in the future.
Hopefully Hamlin, just over the county line to the north of us. So those are things we have in place as we develop to maintain our ability to provide water. Something that frequently happens when large developments happen, not this one, but other large developments, is farmland is taken out of service in order to develop into residential or commercial areas. The farmland uses more water than the municipality uses. The farmers consume 80% of the water in the valley. The municipalities consume about 20% of the water. So when those farms come offline and the water comes into the city, we will use less water than the farms are using. Now the farmers are also chipping in. They're doing what they can do to try to be more efficient with the water they use. Those are some of the things we're doing for water. Iron County School District was brought up. Iron County School District plans out where the schools are going to go and when they're going to build them. Again, they're not in the habit of building them before development gets there. They're in the habit of finding where the development pressure is, buying land, and then moving schools where they need to move schools to facilitate that growth. But it's going to be after the growth happens. The Iron County School District already has purchased a parcel of land to the south and west of Eagle Ridge at South Mountain, and they have plans to develop that for schools to accommodate the growth that they see happening on that south end of this valley. So those are some of the things that need to go on before these large scale subdivisions can come online. This large scale subdivision is master plan for 30 years. It may take 30 years. It may take more. It depends on what the economy does. It could take less, but it's not going to be developed overnight, and it's not just going to come into existence overnight. As a city, we have to constantly look out on these land use decisions for two interests that very often conflict. There's the existing population that wants to maintain what they have often, and there's the developers who have the legal right to develop their property to what the city has on the books. So we have the unenviable task of sitting in the middle, and we know that Utah is a property rights state, that Utah is very legally very heavily has the thumb on the scales for property rights, and the developers are very keenly aware of this, and we have a duty to work with the developers to facilitate their developments if they can comply with what we require for development. I think I got everything. Did I miss anything?
Thank you. That was good.
Yeah, that was
Very
good.
thorough.
There is just one quick item that I'd like to point out. The Sitla's developers, Quantum Development, they're actually looking, their first development's going to be up here in the northeast
Pond
corner
Yeah.
of the area.
So the alternative to this would be to just develop it as market dictated and go through the zoning process that was so well described piece by piece. What the RDO gives us is an opportunity to get out in front of this, understand an entire development, and have the overlay. I mean, it just seems from a planning perspective to be a prudent approach, but that's just me.
I think
Am I to understand too, if they, once we approve an RDO, they can't change that density unless they come back and have the RDO amended? Is that correct?
That's correct. The RDO would be an ordinance that is actually signed and put in place. So to amend that would require more public hearings and coming back before the same body.
So those proposed densities would stay as is, they're locked in?
Correct.
Okay.
And just one other comment, that the RDO uses the land development concept or the zoning concepts that have been in place in the city for 20 or 30 years. Those zoning provisions are still in place with an RDO.
I would like to address your question that you've got up there right now. Do you know who benefits from this development? Our school kids. All of the profits and the money from the development. I mean, obviously people make a living. You work somewhere, you make a living, you're paid for it. But Sitla has been charged with managing and developing property for our school children. So I hope that answers your question. That's, if we're wanting to follow the money, that's where the money goes.
Council have other comments?
This just seems logical and prudent to me, and so I move that we approve this residential development overlay as it has been thought out and presented.
Second.
Okay, this is an ordinance, so we will do a roll call. I think we're at Councilman Adams this time.
Aye.
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 Okay.
I move that we close this meeting and go into closed session.
Second.
Okay, we'll start with the roll call for that. Councilwoman Hartley.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Answer.